Howdy doody, buckaroony. My name is Cameron, better known as Venus Theory. This is the ILIO YouTube channel, and you should put on your sound designer cap or your big kid pants, whatever you prefer, because we are going to be building a drum kit from the ground up using only the mighty power of Chromaphone 3 from Applied Acoustic Systems. Chromaphone 3 is a physical modeling synthesizer. In plain English, this means it's very good at generating realistic sounds like the factory default bells patch here. But we have no need for presets where we're going because we are venturing bravely forward into the land of myth and dragons and legend and stuff. Probably. We are going to be building a drum kit consisting of a kick drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat, and a cymbal. So to get this party started, we're going to pop over to the editor tab here. We're going to mute the second layer. We're not going to need it for right now. And over on the first layer, we're going to click the three dots down here, go to load, and load the kick drum layer preset. This on its own really doesn't sound bad, and you could probably use this, but we're going to dive in a little deeper and really dial this sound in a bit. Flicking over into the synth tab here, we can start adjusting the resonators just to tune this drum a bit more. So let's tune the pitch up a little. Maybe right around there sounds good, has a nice thump, and then we could start adjusting things like the decay. There we've almost got a big rumbly Vista Light type kick, and if we go shorter, a much more modern, maybe less roomy kick. So we'll maybe go right about in the middle, and we could adjust the hit position as well just to alter the timbre slightly. Because a drummer is really never going to hit things the same way twice, it's handy to increase a little bit of random and velocity modulation to the hit position and decay. We can do this just by clicking and dragging, so we'll add about 20% randomness or so, and a little bit of velocity control as well to the decay and hit position. This way we could play soft or hard and get slightly different sounds for each, meaning when we play this in a loop, it's going to sound much more realistic. To dial in the kick drum a bit more, we could maybe enable the second resonator and tune it a little bit. Right there sounds pretty punchy. We could even add just a touch of key tracking if we wanted maybe a slightly deeper sound or a brighter sound. So far, so good, I think. Let's go down and adjust the low cut down ever so slightly just to get a little bit more of that thump, and we could adjust the tone, go a bit brighter and muted, or even a bit lower and more synthetic almost. We can even adjust the material, going down to something very solid and kind of pillowy, or going up towards something even more metallic, again, leaning more into that very roomy Vista Light type sound. So we'll go down just for a nice thumpy kick because I think we're going to do something a bit more modern. Finishing off this layer, let's enable the noise engine here and increase the direct level of the noise in the mixer. Right about there should be good, and we'll drop the decay of the envelope slightly just to get that nice clicky transient. This is sounding pretty solid, but because Chromaphone is bitimbral, meaning we can have two separate patches within a single instance, we could take things up a couple steps further by enabling the second layer. Let's unmute layer B here, go to the three dots, go to load, and what we're going to load instead of another kick layer is a snare layer. This way we're going to get something a little bit brighter, but obviously this is not really going to work. So let's solo this out just to hear it a bit more in context. Let's start by maybe tuning this down. Right about there seems pretty good. Let's drop the decay and drop the decay of the envelope, and drop the hold as well. What I'm really aiming for here is just a bit of rattle as you would get when you hit a kick drum very hard and the snares on the snare drum rattle, and also just adds a nice sense of air to the kick. So let's unsolo this and hear both layers together. Sounds pretty good. I'm going to drop the gain down slightly of layer B, and we're all set. Finishing things off, let's flick to the master effects here. We could probably do a little bit of compression just to glue things together ever so slightly, and I'm going to enable a distortion as well. That's pretty intense, so let's back that off. Maybe increase the output. And I think we've got a pretty solid kick. Onwards we venture into another instance of Chromaphone to make a snare drum this time. Let's go into the editor, mute the second layer. We're not gonna need it for this one. Go to the 3 dots under layer A, load a snare preset. Right away, pretty good sounding, but we're just gonna dial this in a little bit. I want more of kind of a high rim type snare because I think I wanna aim for more of a drum and bass style kit this time around. So let's increase the pitch. That feels pretty good. Let's add a little bit of pitch envelope here. That sounds pretty solid. Let's add some randomness to the hit position. This way we could do some kind of rolls and get just little bits of variation. Again, we're gonna bring in some velocity control for decay and hit position just to make things sound a bit more realistic. So even if we do really fast rolls, it's gonna sound a lot more interesting. With the material, I usually like to bias this a bit more towards the metal side, just to get those really nice high ringing tones. And then we could maybe tune resonator B a little bit differently. Right around there sounds cool. Let's play with decay. Maybe add a little bit of velocity there. Sounding pretty good. Let's add some direct noise, to really make things nice and bright. And I'm gonna drop the decay of the noise just to make things a bit tighter, and drop the decay of the resonator and the velocity control. Cool, think that sounds good. Over to the master effects, we're gonna do a couple quick things. Let's get some EQ. First up, I wanna bring up that nice heavy fundamental of the snare. So let's aim for probably a frequency of around 120 Hertz or so and just crank the gain. Seems like 180 is gonna work better, so let's drop that down now. Sounds a bit more reasonable. Let's hunt for a bit of mid-range snap, probably around 1K. Sounds good. A bit of brightness, probably around 5K. Sounds good. Let's widen out the EQ. And just a little bit of top end, just to make that nice and bright. Let's do some compression. Really make that nice and punchy, and add a distortion, just to drive things home a bit. Moving on, let's do hi-hats and cymbals. This is actually gonna be really easy because once we have the hi-hat done, we can really just duplicate it and create a cymbal by adjusting a few settings. Into the editor we go. Let's mute the second layer, go to the 3 dots, load, and grab the hi-hat preset. Into the synth engine we go, and right away, pretty much all set. I want this to be a bit more bright though, so let's bring in some direct noise, and maybe tune the resonator up slightly. And really, I think that's pretty good. We could maybe just try adjusting the decay and material a little bit to dial in the sound. And add a little bit of movement with velocity. Let's increase direct noise and try a little bit more decay. Maybe drop the decay here. And I think I'm cool with that. When it comes to hi-hat design as well, one fun thing is to play with a second resonator. I'm gonna drop the direct signal of the noise here, just so you can hear this a bit better. And playing with things like maybe a drum head can add a bit of a different flavor, and blending in that direct noise again, we can just have a bit of a thicker hi-hat sound. So do experiment with that, as well as detuning these slightly with fine tuning to get a bit more of an inharmonic metallic ringing tone. Turning this into a cymbal is gonna be super easy. I'm just gonna duplicate that track in my DAW and then open this same instance of Chromaphone. Lucky for us, cymbals and hi-hats are pretty much the exact same thing. A cymbal's just a lot bigger. So we can quickly create a cymbal in Chromaphone out of our hi-hat by just disabling resonator B here. We're gonna tune resonator A down a bit, maybe a bit more like that, and start increasing the decay. Maybe we could stand to go down a bit further. There we've got kind of a ride bell almost. Let's increase the random hit position amount. Maybe brighten up that tone and increase the decay of the envelope so we get a lot of that noise coming through. We could probably adjust the noise filter a bit. And with that, we've got a pretty solid cymbal sound. Just for a bit more space, a touch of reverb, probably just the studio reverb would do, would just help open this up and make it a bit more diffused. After grouping this together in the DAW, adding a little bit of tape saturation and bus compression, we've now got a drum kit from the ground up made using only the power of Chromaphone 3. And that wraps everything up for this video. Hopefully this inspires you to get out and experiment with Chromaphone a bit and start building some drum kits of your own. It's a lot of fun to explore, and sounds like this can be particularly useful when you're designing maybe a bit more of an electronic sounding drum kit and you want that added sense of realism and that extra dimension that acoustic instruments can bring to the table. That wraps everything up for this one. For more tutorials just like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel down below for all the latest news and updates of all things ILIO. And of course, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And as always, I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome.